Deadlines are approaching for agencies to comply with provisions of the White House executive order on cyber. Those deadlines could cause heartburn for agencies that don't make them. Ari Schwartz is Managing Director of Cybersecurity Services at Venable. He's former Special Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Cybersecurity. He calls the new EO the most ambitious cybersecurity effort in decades in the Washington Post. Ari, I guess I don't have to ask you what you think of the executive order. You made your thoughts pretty clear to the Post. Why do you think it's such a big deal?
Well, there's just a lot in there, right? I mean, this is, I remember when we were trying to do executive orders in the Obama administration, we had something that was 16 pages, and it was considered too long. And this is, 52 pages we're talking about, 54 pages, I think it ended up. It has 50 different actions in it that are all tied, to different actions that agencies need to take, because it's mostly focused on the response to the two incidents that happened at the end of the Trump administration, the SolarWinds case and the Hafnium case, that are, had some impact on the federal government and the federal government's ability to respond to cyber incidents. So there's a lot in there about what agencies should have in place and how response should work. And some of that will bleed over into the private sector as well. A lot of it's aimed at contractors, and that will directly have an effect on the private sector.
I mentioned those deadlines because when the EO first came out, the buzz kind of in the government community was, wow, these deadlines are going to approach quickly. We need to really get on it. I imagine that was part of the point. But with these deadlines approaching, who's doing what in your view, or who should be doing what to comply with these deadlines and meet both the spirit and the letter of the executive order?
Well, there are a number of things that DHS has put in place through CISA and that NIST has to put in place. But once those go into effect, and some of those are, things that are coming out in this month or within the next 30 days, that then agencies are going to have to start acting, putting in place, making sure that they put into place things that are tied to zero knowledge efforts, a lot of efforts around what the contractors are doing in the space, things like the endpoint detection, making sure that they have endpoint detection in place, that they're ready to be able to respond, et cetera. I think those areas all come back to tying the way agencies react here.
Do those efforts, in your view, Ari, get us back to a more secure defensive posture, or do they set the groundwork for maybe a more proactive approach to cybersecurity, or maybe it's a combination of both?
It's really about being able to look and say that at the basic level, agencies have the protections that they need in place in their supply chain, and that they're ready to respond in the right way. I think when something bad happens, the idea is we're getting away from the borders being the only protections. A lot of times in the past, I mean, when I say that this is the most ambitious thing that's been done in decades in this space, you look back decades ago to CNCI, which was the Bush administration's attempt to do this. And they did a great job in terms of expanding the scope. But really, you still had the DOJ, DHS, and DOD being the defenders out there. And this is more about getting the agencies more strong. Some of that was done after the OPM incident, but still not enough to really make sure that the agencies are strong enough inside their agency, not just protecting at the border. And that you don't necessarily trust the people that are on your network, even if it looks like it might be someone that should be there.
You used a phrase a moment ago that I think is important, although you might not have thought about it when you said it, and that is that it's important for agencies to have these protections in place when something bad happens. That assumption has changed over time, hasn't it? Do you think there is a comprehensive understanding that breaches like we've seen will happen and the response is important, or do you think there are still too many people of the mindset of we have to prevent everything bad from ever happening in the cyber realm?
I mean, incidents happen every day. and at this point, and every agency knows that deals with this. And so the question is, how bad is it, and did we stop it all? Sometimes it looks like it's been stopped, and sometimes, but it hasn't. Other times it looks like it has been stopped, and it actually has. So you need to be able to investigate and go into great detail here, and be able to make sure that you know what's actually happening on your network in ways that you haven't necessarily had to do in the past. And so this is really making sure that that's happening, that you have this kind of, they use the term zero trust here, where they're trying to get at that you don't trust anyone else on your network, right, as the basis. And I think that goes for incidents too, right? That when an incident happens, that you're ready to be able to respond to it, and that you don't necessarily think that the first glimpse isn't necessarily the final glimpse.
About 30 seconds left, Ari. Beyond the deadlines that are approaching, what else will you watch? Well,
I think the main piece in here that catches my interest is really on this software supply chain, as they call it, or the software life cycle here, where NIST is going to be coming up with a bunch of standards over the next year, or tying together the standards that they have to really influence the way government buys software, the way contractors buy software, and which will influence the entire way that we look at software security around the world.
Ari Schwartz, thanks very much. As always, great to see you.
Good to see you too.